Domino's is a 56-year-old business. When you look internationally, started in 1960 in America. So, today it has over 13,000 units across the world. DPE, which is a company I'm a part of and head up the Australia New Zealand business, we're a publicly listed company here in Australia, worth almost $6 billion now on the ASX. We operate about 2,000 stores across not just Australia and New Zealand, but France, Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Japan. So quite a great spread geographically and culturally. And we're really proud to be producing technology inside DPE, inside the Brisbane office here, that gets exported to those markets and a lot of times across other markets across the world as well. So it is a really fun place to be. A lot of people say we're a technology company, we're not a pizza company. I don't really like that connotation. We are a pizza company and we use technology to solve problems for our customers. It's about how can we create or solve a problem for our customers. To give you guys an example of how that works, well, the pizza tracker. It's been around since about 2007, invented right here in Australia, and all it was trying to solve a problem for our customers. When is my damn pizza going to get here? And the answer was really simple. We already knew that. We already tracked it internally in our point of sale systems inside our stores. So all we did was create an interface that could show the customer what we already knew. And we have Pizza Tracker. GPS driver tracker, maybe the next evolution of that, actually started as a safety initiative. How do we change behaviour? We've got literally hundreds of thousands of deliveries being made each week in Australia, most of it by young Australians. We have an obligation to them to keep them safe. We wanted to understand how we could better do that. So we went about that journey. And little did we know that GPS driver tracker would lead to the Uberification side of things, the little guy on the map. But more importantly, what it taught us was how we could achieve a 10-minute delivery. And we are now using those data points and that technology to leverage and to take the business into that part of the future.
So technology was an enabler, and it is an enabler.
It is, yep.
Tell us about Tanda, Liam. It's a younger company. I'm very familiar because it's it's a Brisbane local startup success story. But for those who don't know what Tanda does, tell us a bit about it and how long you've been around.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been around for almost 5 years now. So I think at some point we might lose the startup feel and vibe, but not for a while. That's right. But I'll tell you what, it's interesting. Nick and I were talking before about the startup mentality and really what is that, and it's one of the things that I think that drew us together was that ability to innovate, be agile, to use technology to solve problems is something we have in common. And for us, very humble beginnings. Lord Mayor, we started at university and we used that campus to get off the ground. But then we moved into our very first office, which looked nothing as flash as anything available here. In fact, I don't think it would pass a building inspection. And 4 or 5 people were in each other's space trying to solve a problem for businesses around how they roster their staff, how they use time and attendance to make sure that people get paid for the time that they work and that management have better control of their workforce. So it was that kind of humble beginning that for local uni students in what has become a new world city really began. And something like this is fantastic to look around at. One of my best friends, he had to move his startup to Ireland to get going, and frankly I don't like talking to him at midnight. So it's really great to see Brisbane being able to foster these kind of opportunities for not just young people, but for businesses generally.
Thank you. Yeah. So Domino's and Tanda recently announced a pretty significant partnership and a collaboration where Domino's is now using the Tanda technology to help Australian franchisees manage their rostering needs better with the view of expanding it to other markets. Is that correct? Have I got that summary right?
Australian and New Zealand. Whoop. And we're just about to launch some tests. Sorry, Australian and New Zealand. And we're just about to launch some tests in the Netherlands and Germany as well. So
cool. So how did the relationship start? How did Domino's hear about Tanda and what was the problem that you were trying to solve?
Yeah, I'll start with the problem because that's the easy one. We needed a better way of managing the workforce. We have a pretty great culture of rostering in our business. You guys can hear me? All right. But it was a system that was built over time. You know, it was Excel based, and we had built different interfaces for managing time and attendance, and then it was sort of band-aided across to our point of sale system. And you know, at this point in time, you know, with the volume we're now doing and, you know, the complications of the IR landscape, we needed a simpler and more robust way of doing that. Now, we sit down and we say, well, there's two ways of doing that. We build it ourselves or we find a great partner. There's a lot of great products out there, but that really wasn't, you know, how we started out thinking about this. There's a lot of, you know, places that we didn't want to go in terms of adopting someone else's way of doing things. You know, the culture of rostering inside our organisation is strong. We wanted to keep, you know, that as a crucial part of how we continued in the future. And a lot of companies wanted to sell us what they had because they thought it was the best way. You know, I think the guys at Tanda were experts in their field and really understood, you know, what they do, which is time and attendance, but they were really humble and open to making that in a Domino's way. And, you know, that's how the sort of conversations kicked off. And how we started the conversation was our D Lab, our recently opened innovation lab that we opened last year in Brisbane, reached out, found these Tanda guys and brought them into the office for a can of Coke, some pizza and a bit of a chat. So from there...
Startup story, Coke and pizza, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's the honey trap.
We got them.
Yeah.
Liam, from your perspective, what has it meant to Tanda as a 5-year startup, but still, you know, you're still growing, you're still emerging. What does it mean to Tanda to actually have such a significant and well-known client working with you to come up with an enterprise solution?
Yeah, so Tanda, you know, we have 1,000 clients, you know, around Australia, although less when we first met. But certainly, Domino's is more than just a client. It is a partner because with them, you know, they are willing to take a couple of risks. They are willing to have that open conversation, you know, with us to improve both our product to solve their problems, but also really to help us even explore new ways for us to use our product for our other clients as well. So, you know, if you've ever had the pleasure of managing a team, of rostering staff, some of those problems are universal no matter what industry you're in. But certainly with Domino's, there was something special with how they treat their people, work with their people, and we really wanted to tap and harness that through our product. Now, you know, digital revolution, software as a service, you know, this, you know, new way of providing products and services to businesses means that, you know, you can provide a product cheaply with, you know, some level of agility, and, you know, that for us is certainly a competitive advantage. But more than that, as I said earlier, it is the passion. So there's not many people on earth that would get passionate about rostering and time and attendance. So too, I imagine there are only a few, you know, there's not too many people who are, present company excluded, who get very passionate about providing pizzas, fantastic pizzas to as many people as possible, as quickly as possible. And when you bring those two passions together, that's when you can really create something special. So that's what we wanted to do.
Awesome, thank you. I think, and I soapbox about this a lot, the importance of collaboration. Collaboration is one of the key capabilities I think that we need, not just as startups, but in order to be successful in the new world economy, where we can't compete with each other anymore. We actually have to join forces to synergize. But we're not taught to collaborate, we're taught to compete. So I'm really curious, how have you guys dealt with the collaboration parts, and how have you dealt with the messiness that automatically comes into collaborative efforts?
Yeah, good question. And I think it is probably the hardest thing to do. The first thing you got to do is put all egos aside at the door. I mean, as a big company, it's really easy to storm into the room and say, you need us, we are the customer. You know, we can you know, make your product or idea a reality. And, you know, I think on the same side, and Liam can correct me if I'm wrong, it's pretty easy to walk in and think, I've got the best idea in the world and you guys need it. So, you know, trying to get to that middle ground as to, well, you know, where it stops and starts, who's bringing what to the table, you know, how do we ring fence certain parts of, you know, the IP. Like I said before, we've been doing this a long time. We've been delivering pizza across the world for 56 years, the #1 delivery company in the world. We know a little thing or two about delivering pizza. And we don't necessarily want to teach it to our competitors, but these guys sell their products to those guys. So, you know, we've got a problem. How do we collaborate without, you know, divulging some of the things that we've worked really hard to figure out? And then how do these guys know this and then not try and use it to sell it to somebody else. So we have to come up with creative ways of working together to say, well, how is this going to work? If we develop this, who owns it? When can each person use it? How long does that exclusivity, if any, last? All those types of things. But long after the romance has faded, you've got to be able to get it done. And I think that making sure that you're really clear about what each person is bringing to the partnership, just like in life or business, any other place, has to get done. It's easy to rush into the romance of the idea and then find yourself, having not thought through the solution. And, that's, I think, one of the most important things that you can do is really try and understand what problem you really are trying to solve, who's bringing what, and then how are we going to get through, what are the deal breakers? How are we going to get through some of the obstacles? And some of them are really obvious. We've got 50,000 employees across the globe. How are you guys even going to build the servers that it takes to facilitate that kind of infrastructure? That's a pretty obvious question. What happens if, this startup goes bust? We've got a system leveraged that operates across 9 different countries, that's leveraged on an Australian startup. What's going to happen there? So I guess you've got to have those tough conversations about what's real and be prepared to leave your egos at the door, work towards the solutions before the problems start.
There's so many takeaways. I hope somebody tweeted those. Liam, your perspective, how have you dealt with the collaboration and the messiness that comes with it?
Yeah, so exactly as Nick said, I think the only other thing to add would be, thankfully my partner's not here, but communication is very, very important.
Some of us are better at it in business.
Yes, so for us, as Nick said, you can come up with that perfect plan at the outset, but it is a relationship. It is a 5-year partnership. That trust comes slowly, but you do have to earn it, and the best way to do that is through open communication. So, we'll spot problems, and if you want this relationship to work, you have to talk about them. You have to get out in front of them, and that is tough to do as a small business. We have 40 staff in 2 places, so the scales are much tipped in a different direction to ours, and so the communication needs to be very, very clear, very crisp, very honest, and as proactive as possible. Definitely.
I love that. Very crisp, very clear, and very honest. I'm very conscious of time. Are there any questions from the audience? Quick show of hands if there is. We've got one down here, so I'm going to go for the very quick hand. You give me your question and I'll repeat it back for the rest of the room.
Okay. It was a question for Liam around engaging with enterprise customers. How difficult has that kind of journey been, particularly in the early days as an early stage startup?
Yeah.
So the question from the delightfully quietly spoken woman down the front of the room, no, it was perfect, was for Tanda around how has it been and what's your experience as a smaller, new team in terms of engaging with enterprise clients? And I'm going to come to you next.
So good question. So firstly, I think success breeds success. So it's very hard for you as a small business to rock up at Woolworth's store and say, congratulations, you've found me. So
That's what he said, by the way.
There was a meat lovers pizza involved though. So it's for us, we started small. We went out to businesses before we had a product, asked them what their problem was, sold them a vision, and we got a commitment that if we built something for them, very crude, that it would deliver. And it was your local coffee shop. It was your local pet washing business. We started there, and 4 years later, through a cycle of getting small businesses, taking the revenue, improving the product, proving the success of what the product can do for a business. As I said, the problems between someone who owns a coffee store and an enterprise customer who needs to roster staff at some level are the same, and that's your introduction to the door. That being said, Domino's does definitely, they took a risk, without a doubt, and that's why we're working very, very hard to make sure it pays off.
Awesome answer, thank you. The gentleman in the middle of the room is going to have to use his outdoor voice.
That's okay, Is it a past sort of principal school teacher, I love the idea of attendance, by the way, and all that sort of stuff. I'm with you on that. My question is more about digital disruption, about pizza and marrying two partnerships together, about that side of technical science. Where do you see yourselves in 5 years' time?
That's a rip of a
Wants to
question
answer that?
for
That's
Domino's.
awesome.
I've heard your answer. I've heard your answer to this question. It's really
For
good.
the partnership, so where do you see yourselves in 5 years' time?
Because things will change, James.
Yeah, a good question. And we talk about this all the time. We try not to get too carried away with it actually, because it's really exciting for me and Liam as well, because he's right into that stuff. But there's so much that can be done in this space, and I think even next year will be the year of AI. There's just so much going on in that space.
That's
and
artificial intelligence. Not everyone's up with the jargon.
I think that's what I've got. But
No, that's false censorship though.
anyway, recently we're lucky enough to have some great partnerships with the likes of Facebook and Google and Microsoft and those kind of guys, and we get to spend a lot of time over in Silicon Valley trying to absorb where all these things are going, and it's just really clear when you spend some time there just what's about to be at our fingertips, and we're both really excited about not just developing something that can handle time and attendance, and we're so excited to be working with these guys who also see that vision and, more importantly, can help us build that vision. So that's the future.
And it's not far away. Like right now we have an ex-geneticist coding a machine learning program so that it will create a roster for a manager. And 5 years from now, the managers are still the same. Nick's got a great comment around, if you're a manager of a team, you're expected to be a bush lawyer, an IR expert, a HR friend to listen to, and you're also supposed to be a small business person, and without that level of training of any of those professions. So what we want to be able to provide is some muscle to how you roster your workforce to make sure it is the most cost effective, because $1 you don't have to spend on your workforce is the easiest dollar you'll ever make.